The carriage wheel shattered with a sound like a gunshot. Lady Clara, the Duchess of Argyle, was thrown against the velvet wall of the coach. Outside, horses screamed, men shouted. Then came the unmistakable crack of pistol fire. Highwaymen. Clara didn't scream. She reached for the small dagger she kept hidden in her boot. But before she could draw it, the carriage door was ripped open. A man stood there. He was massive, wearing a long coat and a mask that covered the lower half of his face. He held a flintlock pistol in one hand and a lantern in the other. "Out, your grace," he growled, "unless you want to die in a box." Clara smoothed her skirts. She stepped out into the mud, her chin held high. She looked at the chaos around her. Her driver was tied up. Her guards were disarmed. "Who is in charge?" Clara demanded, her voice cutting through the rain. A second man stepped forward. He was leaner, dangerous, with eyes that glinted in the lantern light. He wasn't wearing a mask. He didn't need to. He was Jack, the wolf Doherty, the most wanted man in England. "I am Duchess," Jack said, bowing mockingly. "Welcome to the Blackwood Forest." He grabbed her arm. "We are not here for your jewels," he whispered. "We are here for you. The Duke will pay £50,000 to get you back, or he will get you back in pieces." Clara looked at him. She didn't flinch. 50,000? She asked coolly. "Is that all? My husband paid more than that for his prize stallion." "I am insulted," Jack laughed. It was a harsh surprise sound. "You have spirit, Duchess. Let's see if you still have it after a night in the caves." They dragged her deep into the forest. The hideout was a series of limestone caves, damp and smelling of wood smoke and unwashed men. There were 12 of them, desperate men, killers. They threw Clara into a small cell carved into the rock. Jack locked the iron gate. "Make yourself comfortable, your grace," he sneered. "It will be a long wait." He walked away to join his men by the fire. They were celebrating, drinking ale, dividing the loot from the carriage. Clara sat on the dirty straw. She didn't cry. She listened. She listened to their arguments. "We should have taken the gold shipment," one man shouted. "The ransom will take too long." "Shut up, Bill," Jack roared. "The shipment is too heavily guarded. We'd be slaughtered." "We are starving, Jack," another voice argued. "We have no powder. We have no food. If the redcoats find us, we are dead." Clara smiled in the dark. It was a small, predatory smile. She stood up. She walked to the bars of her cell. "Jack," she called out. The highwayman turned, annoyed. "What? You are doing it wrong," she said. Jack walked over to the cell. He looked at her through the bars. "Doing what wrong?" "Everything," Clara said calmly. "You are arguing over scraps, you are hiding in a cave like rats, and you are planning to ransom me to a man who would rather buy a new horse than pay for a wife he hates." Jack frowned. "The Duke will pay. He has to." "The Duke is bankrupt," Clara lied smoothly. "He has mortgaged the estate 3 times. If you send a ransom note, he will send the army, not the money. He will use my kidnapping as an excuse to hunt you down and look like a grieving hero." Jack went pale. He hadn't known. "So we get nothing?" he hissed. "We risked hanging for nothing?" Clara gripped the bars. "Not nothing," she whispered. "You have me. And what good are you?" "I know where the gold is," Clara said. Jack stared at her. "What gold?" "The shipment you were arguing about," Clara said. "The king's payroll. It is passing through the valley tomorrow night. 10 chests of gold bullion." Jack laughed bitterly. "We know about the shipment, Duchess. We also know it is guarded by 50 dragoons. We have 12 men and 3 pistols. It is suicide. It is suicide if you attack the convoy," Clara agreed. "But you don't need to attack it. You just need to be inside it." "How? I have the seal," Clara said. She reached into her corset and pulled out a heavy gold ring. "The ducal signet. This ring gives me authority to inspect any royal transport passing through my husband's lands. If I stop the convoy, if I demand an inspection, they will open the doors." Jack looked at the ring. He looked at Clara. "Why?" he asked, suspicious. "Why would you help us? You are a duchess." Clara's face hardened. "Because I am tired of being a duchess," she said. "I am tired of being sold, traded and ignored. I am tired of a husband who gambles away my dowry. I want out, Jack, and to get out I need money." She leaned closer. "I will help you take the gold. In exchange I take 1 chest, and you let me go. Deal?" Jack studied her. He saw the fire in her eyes. It was the same fire he had, the fire of a survivor. He unlocked the cell door. "Come out, Duchess," he said. "Tell us the plan." For the next 6 hours, the cave transformed. It wasn't a bandit camp anymore. It was a war room. Clara, still in her mud-stained silk dress, stood by the fire, drawing maps in the dirt with a stick. "The convoy will slow down at the bridge," she explained. "That is the choke point. Jack, you will take 3 men and block the far side with a fallen tree. Bill, you and the others will hide in the river." "But the guards," Bill protested. "They will shoot us." "Not if they are looking at me," Clara said. She outlined a plan so audacious, so brilliant, that the men stared at her in awe. She knew the patrol routes, she knew the reload times of the dragoons' muskets, she knew the psychology of the officers. By dawn, she wasn't the hostage, she was the general. When the sun rose, they moved out. They rode to the bridge. Clara rode at the front next to Jack. She wasn't tied up. She was holding the reins of her own horse. "You ride well for a lady," Jack noted, watching her handle the stallion. "I grew up on a horse, Jack," she said, "before they put me in a corset and told me to sit still." They took their positions. The sun began to set. The rumble of wheels echoed in the valley. The convoy appeared. A massive armoured wagon surrounded by soldiers in red coats. Jack signalled. His men felled the tree across the road with a crash. The convoy halted. The captain of the dragoons shouted orders. Pistols were drawn. "Halt!" The captain roared. "Who goes there?" Clara kicked her horse forward. She rode out of the shadows alone. She looked imperious, terrified and angry all at once. "Captain!" she shouted. "Thank God!" The captain lowered his pistol. "Your Grace, the Duchess of Argyle! I have been waylaid," Clara cried, riding closer. "Bandits! They tried to take my carriage. They are in the woods." The captain, seeing a noble woman in distress, made the fatal mistake. He focused on her. He signalled his men to look at the woods to the left, where she was pointing. "Secure the Duchess," he ordered. "Form a perimeter." The guards turned their backs to the river. "Now!" Clara screamed. Jack and his men burst from the water on the right. They didn't use guns. They used clubs and knives. They were on the soldiers before they could turn around. It was chaos, but it was controlled chaos. Clara had assigned every man a target. Clara herself didn't hide. She rode straight to the wagon driver. He raised a pistol at her. She pulled her own hidden dagger from her boot and threw it. It caught him in the shoulder. He fell. Within minutes it was over. The guards were tied up. The wagon was theirs. Jack walked up to the back of the wagon. He smashed the lock. He threw open the doors. Gold, stacks of it, more money than any of them had ever seen. The men cheered. They looked at Clara with reverence. "You did it," Jack breathed. You actually did it, Clara dismounted. She walked to the wagon. One chest, she reminded him. That was the deal. Jack looked at the gold, then he looked at his men. They were looking at Clara, waiting for her orders. He realised something. She was a better leader than he was. Take it, Jack said. Take 2. Clara smiled. She loaded 2 heavy chests onto a spare horse. She mounted up. Where will you go? Jack asked. You can't go back to the Duke, not after this. I am going to Paris, Clara said. I hear the fashion is better there, and the husbands are less boring. She turned her horse. Wait, Jack said. He walked over to her. He put a hand on her bridle. Don't go. Clara looked down at him. We need a leader, Jack said. I have strength, Duchess, but you have vision? Stay. We could take the whole of England. Clara looked at the band of thieves. They were dirty, rough and criminal, but they looked at her with more respect than the House of Lords ever had. She looked at the road to Paris. Then she looked at the road back to the forest. She thought of her empty life at the manor, the needlepoint, the silence. She looked at Jack. He was a criminal, but he was alive. She smiled, a slow, dangerous smile. Drop the Duchess, she said. My name is Clara. And the Stockholm switch was complete. The Duchess of Argyle was never seen again. The Duke searched for a month, then declared her dead and married his mistress. But travellers in the Blackwood Forest began to tell stories of a new gang. A gang led by a woman in a silk dress with a dagger in her boot. They said she was ruthless, they said she was brilliant, and they said that the fearsome Jack the Wolf Doherty rode at her side, not as her captor, but as her lieutenant. Sometimes you have to get kidnapped to find out who you really are. Clara realised that she wasn't a victim waiting to be rescued. She was a villain waiting to be unleashed. And honestly, looking at her options, can you blame her? It brings up a wild question. If you were trapped in a life that bored you to tears and a criminal offered you a way out, a dangerous, illegal, thrilling way out, would you take it? Or would you go back to the safety of the cage? I think we all have a little bit of the highwayman in us. If you loved seeing the Duchess break bad, rob that like button blind. And if you want to join our gang of storytellers, hit subscribe. We ride at dawn. Until next time, stand and deliver.